And if we have a bear in the top of a tree, like a hollow tree that she goes in the top, we got to bring climbing gear back. So sometimes we have to come back to actually win, but we always win.
And that's the way today's episode of Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine is going to end. We're heading to LaGrange today. Over the last few years, this radio show has accompanied the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife to visit bear dens in Aroostook County, in Washington County. Today, we're visiting one that's not very far from my house. There are 3 study areas that IFW monitors to make sure that Maine's bears are healthy and happy. One's up north, one's down east, but this one is only about a half an hour north of Bangor. Randy Cross is the expert and says the area around Bradford and LaGrange is the land of milk and honey for bears. The woods are so rich in food that bears grow big and fat and raise more young than anywhere else. We're going to see it for ourselves. Stay with me. And we'll drop in a bear named Perula. She's in the prime of her life. Good at mothering, good at telling people to go away or else. Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine is brought to you by Hammond Lumber, Napa Auto Parts, Doors Equipment, and EBS. If you didn't know it already, Maine has more black bears than any state east of the Mississippi and as many bears as states out west that are 3 times our size. Right now, we've probably got more than we ever did. When you have that kind of wildlife, you have a responsibility to protect it, and not just to preserve traditional hunting. Too many bears can make the population unhealthy. That's called carrying capacity. How many bears can our woods support before they start starving or fighting or getting mangy? There's also something called social carrying capacity. Too many bears can force some of them to cause problems for people, breaking into homes, stalking hen houses, and threatening playgrounds. Even though they're a wild animal, they need managing. And that means they need studying. Maine has the oldest, most thorough study in the nation, and you're about to find out why. But first, 3 trivia questions. True or false, black bears mate for life? True or false, female black bears are larger than males on average? True or false, even in winter, bears leave the den periodically to get water, urinate, and defecate? I'll reveal the answers before we get to our first break. Meanwhile, we start the show in the parking lot of a convenience store in LaGrange at 4 corners where Route 6 and 16 intersect. And that's why you're going to hear a lot of truck traffic as IFW's Wildlife Division Director Judy Camuso introduces Maine's legendary black bear biologist, Randy Cross.
So for those of you who don't know, Randy's been with the department for 35 years. He's been working on our bear project for that entire time, which is very unusual in any organization, I think. Randy, and I like to say this, he made the mistake of saying it once, and then I never stopped saying it. Every group I talk to, Randy's handled more black bears than any person in the world, dead or alive. So he has the world record on working with black bears.
I like the dead or alive part.
Yeah, dead or alive. Yeah, and Randy spends, about 200 days a year in the field?
Yeah, probably.
So, I mean, that's extraordinary. I mean, that's like not in your office. Like, that's in the field, out working.
Whatever the weather.
So in my mind, Randy's not only the best bear biologist, but he is by far one of the best field biologists in the country, and we are very lucky to have him. Randy, typically with the bears that we go out on, Randy knows how old they are, the history, when he first caught them, what the situation was like, what our mother was like, blah, blah, blah. With that, I'll turn it over to Randy, and he can talk more specifically about what we're going to do when the bear.
We as a group do more bears than any other state in the country. And the most normal, like say Massachusetts or Pennsylvania, they occasionally will have a big project and they'll have like 80 or maybe even over 100 callers out, but that project typically lasts 3 years and it's done. We've been doing it for 40 years and we do it in a very big way for the last 35 or 36 years. So we just do it bigger than anyone else. I have people that want to work with me from other states, and they'll say, you want me to volunteer? What are you talking about? I've trapped here in North Carolina for 3 years. Like, how many bears did you catch? And they'll say, well, yeah, we got 14 the first year. That was our best year. And you're like, you're going to catch 25 the first week if you're working for me. And so it's a little different scale. But anyway, it's we like to say we're the best. We like to think we're the best. And I can tell you this, we try as hard as we can. We try to do the best job we can and be responsible for the bear resource, and we really try to excel at what we do. And by doing high numbers, we get a lot better than a lot of people who do less. And as far as like working with mobilizing drugs that we need to put the bear to sleep so we can handle it, those type things, you can never have enough practice. And we have one den that you're going to see, one den that I really think is a very unusual den. I haven't been there, but my first mate Lisa has, and Lisa tells us it's the coolest den ever. It's a beaver lodge built into an abandoned beaver pond in the middle of a pond, so it's got a moat, and there's a big tree in the center of the beaver lodge, and the bear is in there. She didn't dare to. I wanted her to look at the bear's face and make sure everything was good with the bear, but she didn't dare to, because the bear is a 15-year-old female. She's never been handled in the den before. She doesn't know what's going on, but she knows there's a little girl just outside the entrance. And so Lisa got there, and the bear was, and I said, you need to hear cubs, and you need to see her face, make sure her face is good. So she got there, and she said, I didn't dare to look around the corner. She said the bear was talking to her cubs, so I know she has cubs. As soon as I got there, I could hear her talking to the cubs. And she said, I just got my face close to the outside, and she blew and jaw popped, and I saw the steam come out. And she said, I didn't want to stick my head in. So, but anyway, it's the coolest den ever. So it will, I mean, you don't know because you're only going to see the one den. So this is a 15-year-old female. And in this study area, any bear between 8 and 18 are in their best years of their life for a female. So they typically will produce 3 cubs on average, and almost always produce 3 cubs in that window of time, and occasionally produce 4, or especially if the water rose up too much, they might lose some cubs when they're very young. So we don't know, but we'll see what she has. We were almost certain she has at least one, or she wouldn't be talking to it. So that's good.
That's Randy Cross, bear team leader for the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. We're standing in a parking lot in LaGrange. You can hear the traffic going by on busy routes 6 and 16. In a few moments, we're going to visit a bear den, tranquilize the mother, and examine the health of her and her cubs. That's what we're doing. But why are we doing it? Randy will give us the answer the moment we return. But first, we open the show with 3 true or false questions. Do black bears mate for life? False. Daddy bear is only in the picture long enough to make a mama bear. Are female bears bigger than males on average? Well, you almost certainly knew that one was false. Do bears periodically leave the den in winter to drink, pee, and poop? Well, also false. And you're about to find out how weird bears really are. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. It's Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. The Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife has been studying black bears for 42 years, way longer than anywhere else on the planet. It's not a big surprise. We have more black bears than any state east of the Mississippi, and as many bears as much larger states out west. We're on the way to check on the health and reproductive success of a sow named Perula. She's a 15-year-old bear, and she's in the prime of her life. We're in LaGrange, standing in the general store parking lot next to a busy intersection, and the question is, why are they studying these bears so intently?
Anyway, like I say, we started, this research project started 42 years ago, and before I came along. So our primary objective to enter, you should wonder why we put collars on female bears and why we do this every winter. It costs a lot of money. It costs $1,000 a day when we're trapping. You know, we trap for 40 days, it costs close to $40,000. It costs $8 a month to keep a bear on the air, which doesn't sound like very much, but we keep over 100 bears on the air most of the time. So over $800 a month turns into quite a bit of money. So we feel that it's worth spending that kind of effort, that kind of money, to monitor our bear population in a long-term fashion. So if anything's going on with the bears, we know. And our primary objective to all this winter work is to count the number of cubs being born, to estimate cub production, and then the following year see how many of those cubs are still with the mother, because they go back in the den with the mother as yearlings and they're like 45 pounds. And that's hard to predict. Some years, usually 70 to 75% of the cubs, somewhere in there, 65-75% of the cubs that are born this year survive till next year in the den. But there are times when almost all of them die. And we need to estimate how many bears are entering the population to replace those that are lost to hunters. Do we have a really good handle on how many the hunters removed from the population? So we need to figure out how we're doing in this balance. So it's as simple as that.
On the bear you were dealing with earlier today, you said this didn't go well, and I bet that's a good story.
Well, it is. I wasn't there, but it is sometimes a struggle when you have older bears like this and they have a lot of self-confidence. They want to defend themselves, but they also want to defend their cubs. So they can be very hard to get to poke with a stick. It's basically what we have, a syringe on the end of a stick. And the second den sounds like one that you got to go in with one pipe, and one pipe is 2 feet long. So you have to get this close, really this close. And the bear's a little bit uncomfortable with that. The bears would prefer that you never come closer than about 20-22 inches. So you have sort of a personal space, but the bear's personal space is basically as far as the bear can reach without moving. And they know that you can reach that far without moving, or at least they relate you to a bear. I mean, they deal with bears all the time. So when you pressure, when you get inside that space, the bear's demeanor changes radically. But they're really afraid of people, and they think of us as a huge threat, which is realistic, because we are. And these older females are going to aggressively defend their cubs. And in doing so, they tend to often slap anything that comes through the entrance, slap it or bite it, or both. And what happened, I'm pretty sure she bit it because she took the end off. There's a syringe on the end of a pole, and it has a aluminum housing that keeps the bear from being able to crush it. And if the bear grabs it and pulls like that with her mouth, she pulls it off the end. So apparently that's what happened, because they lost that in the den, and so they had to go to their backup, which we don't like quite as much. And I have a tremendous amount of experience on the crew. We don't really want to put the bear's life in danger, especially for the cubs' sake, And so we have this really big responsibility to do it and do it right and do a good job. There's no study anywhere in any state that has the record that we have for not injuring bears in our work. When you're looking in a hole and you're looking at a lot of fur and you're looking at cubs kind of scrambling around, and cubs will get where you want to hit them. A lot of times right between the tricep and the bicep is where you want to put the drug in, and the cub will get right there.
In the female, you mean? You want to put the drug in
the mother, yeah. And so you don't want to hit a cub, and so it's a lot of times you can only see a small window on the bear, and that window you have to look at and be able to recognize what part of the bear are we looking at. Because if you wait long enough, you're going to be looking in this small window at the bear's head, and you're not going to have anything to shoot at, because she's going to turn around and face the entrance. So sometimes when we can see a small window and we really can't tell, can't make out an elbow, can't make out a thing, we tap it and watch it start to move. So start to move to the left, that means her head's move to the right, that means her head's to the left. Because what she's doing is turning around to look at you. So what you have to watch really close for the elbow to come by. When the elbow comes by, you have to get the drug in. That's your only chance, because next thing her face is in front. So just to give you an idea, it's a very difficult thing, takes a lot of skill. You have to be able to look at a small piece of a bear and know what you're looking at. When we have yearlings in there, it's even harder because yearlings are laying all over the mom, and it's just big jumble of bears, and you only want to get the mother's dose in the mother. So anyway, you may be surprised to hear this, but things don't always go downhill. Bears have been increasing in number, and generally speaking, an increase in population with a static food supply would slowly have less and less food for each individual as there's more and more bears sharing the food. But in the last 10 years, actually the last 15 years, the turn to corner about 2002, we've seen increasing trend in yearling weights in general. We have some off years, but yearling weights basically tell us the quality of food the previous summer, 6-month feeding season. And things have been going very well for bears, and that's a habitat, landscape scale habitat issue, but it's and that's complicated because they eat everything that's not granite, and so it's complicated. Is it because there's more ants? Well, it could be part of it, because there are definitely more ants in northern Maine now than there used to be, and they eat a lot of ants. Lava, or is they pupa, or whatever they are, ants. We call them ant eggs, right? The little white, little maggoty looking things. So anyway, and eat the ants themselves, but it's the little white things that look like a big swollen up rice thing. It's really digestible, it's high in protein, it's actually high in fat too, so they get all kinds of good stuff from it, even though it's about everything a bear eats is smaller than that. So they have to eat a lot of it. They eat all the time. So when they're preparing to go in the den and the temperatures get down cool enough so they can be active all day long as well as all night long, at that point in the fall, they go into a period called hypophagia, and during that period they feed 23 hours out of 24. So they take a couple half-hour breaks, but they're feeding constantly. And so,
how many calories a day?
I think it's 20-something that they've measured that bears
20,000.
consume.
Yeah.
Which is outrageous. But they'll gain. The bigger bears will gain over 4 pounds a day. It's just like humanly impossible. But about every animal out there does amazing things. But bears are probably the most unique of all the mammals, maybe. And some people might argue that marsupials, but there's a lot of things bears do that no other animal does. No other mammal does. No other animal. It's pretty amazing. So.
Hold up, like what?
Yeah, right. You
Like what?
kind of just threw that out there. You got to finish. I'll give us at least one of the things.
Well, in Maine, they go 5 to 6 months without eating, drinking, urinating, or defecating. And they go that whole 5 or 6 months without any direct sunlight, which in any other mammal would create vitamin D problems. They also produce they give birth to the cubs in this condition with no sunlight in a lot of cases because they're underground, and produce vitamin D in their milk with no sunlight. They don't have to urinate. They take the urea and take it and break it apart into building blocks and produce protein. So they lose less weight than you would think because they're metabolizing fat, and they get their water from the fat, and they produce protein. And so all of these things are just amazing. The cubs are not in any winter torpor at all. They're white. They just eat and sleep and play. And they get big enough, they wrestle and stuff, but they're not like in a reduced physiological state. And so the females that are feeding cubs, like these females, they kind of are a lot more awake because they have to feed the cubs and take care of the cubs.
Is the population of black bears moving south in Maine?
Undeniably, yeah. And that's a train we can't really stop easily, and a train we really can't send back. Once they get down into the land of milk and honey, down your way, they're going to like it. And they will cause more problems. And the truth of the matter is we're not doing that great because we really would like to stop this slow growth. We need more bear hunters, or somehow having a little more opportunity, and we're going to work on that. Try to get our harvest popped up a little, and so we can slow that down. But the bears that have hopped the interstate, especially the females that have gotten over the interstate, they're there, and that's not going to change. Definitely. Well, I will put a plug in for our bears are really well behaved, and they're well behaved because of the way we hunt them. And the referendum that almost took away our hunting, basically bear hunting, 2 times, would have changed, because right now the bears that are most bold have the least well-developed human avoidance behavior. The ones that are willing to say, I can smell human scent, but I'm still going to go in there in the daylight. They're the ones that get shot and don't have cubs, don't teach their cubs their bad behavior. The ones that smell human scent and avoid it at all costs don't even go to the bait. They have a lot of cubs, teach their cubs how to stay away from people and have good behavior. So like in other states, bears in the house is not that unusual. States that had no hunting for a long time, Florida is a good example. New Jersey's even better. New Jersey has a lot of houses, but they have. I remember the first time I said, "What? You have 39 occupied home entries?" They said 39 home entries, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, well they get into camps in Maine, and make a mess and then go out through the window." And they're like, "No, this is with people home. We don't count when they go in the house with nobody's home. This is what we call occupied home entry." So that just blew my mind. They don't have as many bears as we have. They have a lot more people, a lot more houses, and probably a pretty great interface. But the bears just don't behave as well. You watch on TV and you see them wrestling in the front yard, knocking over the mailbox. And this is 2 big males that are breeding, that are trying to decide who's top of the breeding hierarchy. So, our bears don't swim in the swimming pools, sleep in the hammocks, and enter houses and all that, because for the last forever almost, we've kept this pressure on them to remove every bear that doesn't get away as quick as they can. So I don't know if that makes sense to you all. I know you all probably don't necessarily agree with it, but as a professional and someone who knows bears very well, I'm telling you that our bears are much safer because of the way we hunt.
Randy Cross has handled more bears than anybody in history, alive or dead. And in a few minutes, he's going to handle another one. Our destination is only about 3 minutes west of this parking lot in LaGrange. You and we should be arriving there at about the same time, right after this break. In just a few minutes, Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine will be inside a bear's den on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine, Saturday mornings at 9, Sunday mornings at 8 on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. It is now time to wake up a bear. We're in LaGrange. I'm with Randy Cross, the bear team leader, and we're parked in a driveway on the edge of town. We're going into the woods about a half a mile where we know a 15-year-old sow named Perula is denned up. We're pretty sure she has cubs, but we don't know how many. I'm going in with the team, and this is my least favorite part, hanging on for dear life in the back of a snowmobile. It's not that I'm uncomfortable in the sled, it's just that I've got a camera, digital recorder, and microphone all dangling from me, ready to catch every branch we pass by. And there's not much back here to hang on.
Brace myself on you for a second.
At least get one hand on my coat, too, Bob. Once you're on there.
Yeah.
At least one hand.
My sole job right now is to avoid falling off. I survived, even though I did catch a branch or two and my lens cap popped off. I didn't tear out any microphones, so I guess I can't complain. We are now at the den, and it is beautiful. It's an old beaver lodge in the middle of a tiny pond. Seldom do you see such a perfect den. Most dens are holes in a bank or under a stump. Some bears den in hollow trees up to 40 feet high. Some bears don't even go in holes. They winter in a small depression above ground. That happens more often in southern Maine. But I've got another problem, and the bear team has a problem. It's about 24 degrees. It hasn't snowed for a while, and the surface of the pond is crusty, which makes it amazingly loud whenever anyone takes a step. And the biologists are all whispering so as not to disturb the bears inside.
There's a small hole over here on the left that might go straight into her. See it there? Way over here.
It'd be hard to look that high, but you might be able to.
It might be able to. I think you can stick Stick your head right up in there.
The beaver lodge is exactly as the beavers designed it, which is causing trouble. There's a clear entrance hole, but it goes around a bend inside and they can't see the bear. And this bear is especially quiet. We can't see or hear what we're up against.
I think she's still in there. You did. She's being wicked quiet.
She was when I was here too.
She was.
I waited.
Keep this handy. I'm just not sure. I don't think he has. You can see her?
There's a little hole in the side of the den, a tiny window, really.
Come up here close and I show you what you're up against. She's behind this. She's behind this.
Oh, geez, yeah. Wow.
See that there? She's around the corner there. Okay. But there's a hole up here. So I'm thinking I'll try to get in there and get my head up. A little peeky hole over here. But you can see all the way in there too, huh? You can actually see any fur? It's weird that she's not blowing or anything.
This is unusual. Bears don't hibernate, they just slow way down, but they're awake and alert. Typically, a mother bear would be making some noises, something like huffing to warn off intruders, sometimes telling the kids to be quiet. The one thing you seldom hear is silence. We're not even sure she's in there, and the only way to find out is to go in and peek around the corner, in which case you're nose to nose with her.
I think I can pull that wall down a little bit up in this corner.
So here's plan A. Randy is going feet first into the den, pushing his feet as far to the right as possible and hopefully out of the way of a paw swipe. From that angle, he might be able to pull down some of the barrier that is shielding the bear from the entrance hole. One of the biologists, the one they nicknamed Jump, because he also jumps out of planes to fight forest fires, is shining a light into the tiny window, hoping to see something, especially if the bear is actually moving forward towards Randy. Jump doesn't like this plan.
If I can pull that wall down, I'll be able to see her.
Boss, if I can see her feet, I'll watch them, but if she gets close, I'll...
What do you see, her front feet?
I can see
No,
her.
he's gonna
watch
Oh, my feet, okay. You can't see her nose or anything.
No, but if I see her nose, do you want me to tell you?
No, it's taken by
No, it's
surprise.
okay. I mean, worst thing I can do is show weakness, so...
With your feet. She's not gonna be able to tell by her feet.
Well, if I move my feet away, she's going to be like, he's scared of me. Like if he says she's coming,
Okay.
and I move my feet, you know what I'm talking about. So better off not to know,
Okay.
and just let her come and say, oh, those feet aren't afraid. Should have those frog ones with the eyes on them.
So here's what they're saying. Jump is going to watch for movement from the bear, even though he really can't see much. He wants to know whether to warn Randy if the bear does move forward. Randy says no. If the bear did decide to lunge, the worst thing Randy could do is pull his feet out of trouble, because now the bear knows the feet are afraid. And if the bear does happen to go for Randy's feet, well, Randy's wearing rubber boots. Maybe the injury wouldn't be too bad.
Do you think we
I'm
can
not going to lie. I'm just going to say this. I don't like this plan.
I wonder if you think we can tease her out enough to shoot it, to get a shot in her?
Maybe. I know that you've been doing this a long time, and I respect that, boss.
Well, I've never done this.
Okay, I'm worried a little bit. Okay.
Well, no, I appreciate that.
All right. I just want to say that.
I don't mind.
She just went like this, and then she backed off.
She didn't look around the corner at me.
No, she's looking at your toes.
Oh, she was seeing my toes.
In the end, plan A isn't going to work.
It's all roots and rocks, and you can't just pull it down like I thought you could pull it down.
I'm glad you tried that first.
Well, I got my head where I could see a little bit, but she wasn't sticking her head out. You can't see nothing through that. So it's all right.
The barrier is stronger than it looks with roots and rocks. Jump suggests plan B. The beaver den is built around a red maple. The crew has an axe, and Jump suggests widening the little window hole so they can maybe get a jab stick through it with enough room to inject the tranquilizer.
Really?
Frankly, I'm liking plan B too. If this works, nobody has to go into the den. Now, this is my third den visit with Randy and his crew from Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, and during the first two, Lisa Bates, the crew member they call Kid, has had to crawl on her belly face first into the hole to face the mama bear head on and jab it with a needle. Doing it from outside the den looks a lot more appealing.
Looks like she had purpose to me. But I'm excited right now, so... they're all hooked up.
I tried jabbing. She's giving me a pat shot. There's a cub right in her armpit, of course. See what happens.
It doesn't take long before the window hole is wide enough to maneuver the jab stick. The jab stick is composed of 2-foot sections of rod that you can screw together to make a 4-footer or a 6-footer. On the end, there's a syringe that injects the tranquilizer when the needle strikes home. This is really tricky. What the biologists want to do is hit the shoulder area. They call it the patch shot. This is because the bear is almost always facing you, ready to lunge or bluff charge if anything gets too close. The neck area has a radio collar. The forearm is all bone. That doesn't leave much of a target. And the odds are always good that the bear is going to bite or swat at the needle when it gets within 2 feet. In fact, the needle is held down with an aluminum housing just in case the bear tries to bite it off. It's a game of cat and mouse.
I think we're going to lose it. It's going to be one and done here because she's going to bite it when I hit her. Because her head's right there. Get your head over there a little bit. It's a matter of patience.
It is. You're doing good.
Don't do that. Hey. Gotta get her head back. Her head's now on it. That'll do it. The hip bone. Agree with that bag.
Just got the bag in her mouth.
Hit her shoulder blade.
And suddenly, it's over. Randy jabs, and instantly the crew throws a tarp over the hole. The needle is really bent. Randy thinks he hit bone, which means that they should have enough tranquilizer into her if everything went right. Randy's not sure it did. The bear swiveled just as he lunged. Did he get the bear, or did he get the collar? We're not going to know for about 10 minutes. That's how long it takes before the bear should be asleep. All we can do now is wait. Your wait is going to be about 3 minutes. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. We're in LaGrange continuing the longest black bear research project on the planet. And it's all taking place at 92.9 The Ticket. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. I'm in LaGrange. In front of me, the bear research crew from the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, including Randy Cross, they call him Boss, Lisa Bates, they call her Kid, Jake Feener, they call him Jump, and the new guy on the team they call Roach. In front of them, a bear den. Inside, a bear. And we still don't know if she is tranquilized. It's been 10 minutes since Randy jabbed her with an injection, but you never know if it worked until the bear actually goes to sleep. And I don't think this one is. Until we know for sure, everyone's going to keep whispering.
The only thing that worries me, though, Jump, is, like, she kept her facing away a lot, and I'm worried that she swung her head around quick when I went at it, and I might have hit the collar. It might not have been a bone.
You hit something, either bone or collar, because that needle looked good.
Yeah, I was mangled, but I could have hit the collar. And that worries me, because she might not have any drug in her.
Right.
So, let's go ahead and put a gray one on there if you've got one. I might have one. Okay, I'll get one. So we gotta get this in quick.
Would it be easier if I gave you a bigger opening?
No, I got what I need. It's just that she, if I thought for sure I could go in there and intimidate her, I would go in further. But I'm not sure. I mean, if I could stay above her, I think I could.
Right now, her head's facing this way.
Okay. Her face was to the left, and she was swinging it back.
Yeah, right now her gun is close. She's quartering away from...
The crew starts to prepare another syringe, this time with a slightly lower dose. Indications are that this bear isn't going to sleep. They may have gotten some drugs into her, but she's still alert and moving around a little. And they've still got the same problem. The bear is around a corner, facing forward, and presenting a poor target. Randy speculates about crawling back inside the den to sting her again, using only a 2-foot pipe. In other words, point blank, with a bear that by now is either getting very sleepy or very angry. A few more minutes pass and the bear is not down. Eventually, they decide to jab through the window again. Got her. Got her good this time, in fact. Randy reports that she didn't even flinch much, an indication that they probably did get some tranquilizer into her on the first try, perhaps with a glancing blow off the collar. Again, we have to wait 10 minutes, but it isn't long before one of the cubs starts squealing. Probably the one that was nestled in her armpit, and possibly she's going to sleep on him, and that's why he's complaining. No cause for alarm. If he's making that much noise, he's doing just fine.
She needs to tap. Her head looks down.
Yeah,
Cub's crawling all over.
she had such good command of that cub. I think she would never let it squeal like that if she's what she's doing before.
Her head's down.
One last check. They reach in with the pipe and lightly tap her to see if they get a reaction. They don't, and it's safe to talk normal again. And we've got a small group of other people coming up from the woods. Some VIPs have been waiting patiently. One cub is out of the den, and he's a big boy. After they weigh him and tag him, some of the participants will actually be able to hold a cub. Cubs are born in January, so this little fella's only about 6 to 8 weeks old. At this age, he's a little bewildered, but not at all nervous. They have a climbing instinct, so when you nestle a cub onto your shoulder, he's going to try to squirm upwards a bit. But mostly they just hug close, cuddle up for warmth, and look around while everyone takes pictures.
Okay, one thing I want to tell you guys about these cubs for taking pictures.
All right, we'll just pull it
Taking pictures of the back of their heads, those are the ones you're going to delete.
Yeah.
So this is not a good picture. Profile's not too bad, but really some of your best pictures is the cub facing the camera up near your face where they can frame it tight. And, look towards the sun and you get more detail on the cub. And cubs that are well fed like this one are a lot better natured and don't make as much noise once they adjust to this whole weird stuff.
Getting Mama out of the den is proving to be a little difficult. She's a big bear. She's around a corner, and the entrance needs to be wide enough to slide her out in a tarp comfortably. Two of the biologists cut out a few more roots and move some dirt, and eventually she is out, and only then do we discover that there are 3 more cubs inside. It's a 4-cub litter, and all of them are big and healthy. They get weighed and tagged and passed around, and then it's decided that I'm going to try to hold all 4 cubs at once. The idea is to get all 4 bears in your arms and against your chest facing out. If they're facing in, they're going to try to climb, grab your jacket. Well, the first one is easy. I get the second one crooked in my right elbow, but the third one turns just enough to grab my jacket with one paw and my face with the other. These claws are designed for tearing apart logs and climbing trees. They're sharp. And as I'm being handed the 4th bear, I can taste my own blood on my lips. People are looking at me kind of funny. But we get the photo, and the bear settled down to cuddling against me, and we all have a grand time. This isn't the first time an episode of Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine has drawn blood. In a moment, the exciting conclusion, including how this mama bear named Perula got named after a bird. Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. Welcome back to Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. I'm with the Bear Crew from the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. We're in LaGrange, standing beside an old beaver lodge that a bear named Perula has turned into her winter den. More than 100 sows are radio-collared in the state, part of the oldest and largest black bear study in the world. Because of what we're doing here, we know more about Maine bears than any other state can claim. At this point, we're cuddling the 4 cubs, keeping them warm while we get Mama ready to go back in her den. In a little while, she'll wake up, discover her cubs beside her, wonder what that was all about, and they'll all stay in there for another couple of weeks before coming out to greet the spring. Jake Feener is the biologist they call Jump.
When I lift up a bear, I always set her back down on the other side in case, because if you handle a bear all on the same side, you might miss something on the other side.
Sure.
Just
when you roll her, just put her on the
because
side you haven't seen yet.
Right, you get to look at it.
Yep.
I really like to feel them up. This bear's name is Perula. when we put the trap site in last spring, when I was putting it in, I could hear a northern Prula singing.
Yeah.
So we named the site after that, and then we caught her there, and that's her name. Yeah, she's a pretty bear.
She is a pretty bear.
She's a good mother too. She was showing a little aggression at the door, and we like that. It makes it. She's protecting her cubs.
Yep.
That's good.
So, was this a typical bear excursion, or is there some...
Well, it's hard to call anything about this work that we do typical. I really think that almost every den is a unique problem unto itself, and a unique solution, because there's so many variations that you come up against, so many problems you come up against that you have to overcome, and so you got to be figuring it out. How are you going to do this?
How often do you have to go around a corner?
That's the worst. That's the worst. Going around the corner puts the bear in a very powerful position and puts you in a very weak position, and the bear knows that. And because you're going to get yourself looking around the corner, laying on your side with the bear above you, and that gives the bear a lot of confidence, and they're going to be a lot more forceful in their trying to evict you from the den so that the cubs are fine.
In a beaver lodge, I mean, that's a place where there's a higher platform inside where the beavers would normally...
Exactly.
And so a bear is going to be lying there above you around a corner.
Exactly, and you're laying on ice, so you don't have a lot of traction to spin out fast. And when you're laying, people think they can go backwards quick when you're laying down, but you really can't go backwards that quick. It's an awkward kind of caterpillar motion. It's the only way you can get out, and it's kind of slow.
Yeah.
But often what we would do in that situation was have somebody holding on to the guy's boots, and the guy will signal by tapping his boots, like Dorothy, I want to go home. And as soon as they tap their boots, it's like quick extraction. So sometimes we do it that way.
So if a bear looks like it's troubled, you would back out that way?
Yes,
or in a bad situation?
Yep.
Because otherwise you want to show no fear.
Right,
and
exactly.
teach the bear who's boss.
Right, and Jake's idea was good. I don't like destroying the side of the den, but we'll build it back up. But it's the other part of that is if we can get the drug in the bear, without making a big commotion, chopping out to the bear would be a lot more calm, because all that time the bear's hearing all that. She knows exactly what's going on out there, and she actually looked a couple times like, what are they doing? They're opening up the side of the thing, and she's thinking we're not there to play cards. She thinks this is bad. These humans are tearing the side off my den, obviously trying to get access. She has 4 cubs under her to protect. So that's on her mind as well. So she has this hormone called prolactin that makes her braver than she would normally be to protect her cubs. And it drives her to protect her cubs. As opposed, if that hormone wasn't present, she would have probably come around that corner and out of that hole and took off, because she would say, I'm going to save myself. But she has those 4 cubs to think about. So if she does decide to run, she's abandoning those cubs. In her mind, probably the worst possible situation to run away with people there.
Yeah, but they'll bluff, but not charge?
They fortunately, most of the time it's all bluffing, trying to make you back up, and trying to give you the message, welcome here. I don't want you here. I don't want to hurt you, but if you keep this up, I might. And so they're trying to give you that message that, you're close enough, no closer, back up.
And if you take that message and back up, she wins.
Exactly. So most of the time, we try to show no weakness. And it's really important when you're dealing with these bears. You don't want to encourage them. You don't want to encourage them that this is working, because all the time that they're jumping at you, you have a tough target. You can't get the drug in safely because she's moving so much, and she's slapping the stick or biting the stick, and that makes it just so hard. So you want to get that upper hand on her to the point where she kind of almost submits and gets a little bit like the fear kind of overtakes the aggression.
So after this bear, are you still undefeated?
Yes, we always win in the end, and it can be a long, hard day. But I've even abandoned dens and say, let's come back, and now we've got the hole open. We'll come back in about a week, and we'll just move right in quick and get her down before she gets all stirred up. So sometimes we do that. And if we have a bear in the top of a tree, like a hollow tree that she goes in the top, we got to bring climbing gear back. So sometimes we have to come back to actually win, but we always win.
And that's it from LaGrange. Randy Cross is boss, and that's what the Bear team calls him. Kid, Jump, and Roach are the rest of the team. IFW Wildlife Division Director Judy Camuso is here too. Plus, members of the legislature's Inland Fisheries and Wildlife Committee, which I just happen to chair when I'm not doing Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. There's a lot of takeaways from today's show, and maybe this is the biggest. For an individual bear hunting can be quite catastrophic. But for the bear population, it's healthy and necessary. Starvation and disease result from too many bears, and if they aren't taught to fear humans, they can cause the kind of trouble seen in other states. Maine can have so many bears precisely because the population is managed, and bears don't want to be anywhere near us. That's good for both sides. Now then, this show and all previous shows are archived at the web at 929theticket.com. It is brought to you by Hammond Lumber, Napa Auto Parts, Doors Equipment, and EBS. We'll return next Saturday morning at 9 and Sunday morning at 8. This is Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket.